Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon's proceedings are being live streamed, but only after a 10-minute delay. Those with mobile devices may use them to transmit what they hear in the hearing room, but only 10 minutes after the event that they're describing has elapsed. They may not be used for recording or photography.
Could you please stand and repeat after me? I do solemnly,
I do solemnly,
sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Mr. Hedley, thank you very much for attending to assist the inquiry with your evidence today. My questions are intended to be short and simple, but if you have any difficulty understanding them, please do ask me to repeat them. If you need a break at any point, do please let me know. And please may I also ask that you keep your voice up so the transcribers can hear you.
Yeah, it's just on that. I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. Could you stand closer to the microphone if that's possible?
Yeah, is that any better?
That's better, yeah, thank you.
You provided a witness statement to the inquiry. If we could show UCPI 38012, so that's tab A1. This statement is dated the 2nd of April and consists of 7 pages.
Yes.
And if we could turn to page 7, we can see it signed on that final page, although we've redacted your signature. Can you confirm that the statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do, yes.
And are you happy for this statement to stand as your evidence to this inquiry?
With other bits that I want to add on, yeah.
Yes, in addition to your oral evidence today.
In addition, yeah.
And so may I ask that stand as Mr. Hedley's evidence? So you are aware, the topics I intend to cover in my questions will include your background, your involvement with various activist groups, violence, your views on it, and the undercover office reporting that topic, Irish republicanism and your involvement with Republican groups in London, the Colin Roach Centre trip to Belfast and Derry in August 1995, blacklisting and reporting on trade union activity by officers, Carlo Siraki's stay at your home, and reporting on your personal details.
Okay.
Many of the questions today will refer to or be connected with the deployment of 2 undercover officers. Mm-hmm. First, Mark Jenner, known in this inquiry as HN15, yeah. Whom you may have known in his cover name, Mark Cassidy.
Yeah.
Do you remember him? Do you remember Mark Cassidy?
Yes, I remember the fictitious person who masqueraded as Mark Cassidy.
And a second officer known in this inquiry as HN104, who is Carlo Siraki, whose cover name was Carlo Neri.
Yes.
And do you remember him?
I remember him.
There is also a body of reporting attributed to an officer known as HN60, who was deployed under the name David Evans. I understand you do not recall that officer.
Well, I think that I did ask you if I could have photographs of these people to jog my memory. It was a long time ago. And unfortunately, you weren't able to provide those photographs. So I would have to say at this point, I don't know who he is.
Thank you. That's a helpful clarification. So starting with your personal background, you grew up in Derry?
Yes.
And you moved to London at the age of 18?
That's right.
What prompted that move to London?
Well, I'm a Roman Catholic. I was a Roman Catholic, very lapsed. And we had a history of discrimination by the British state, including murder, collusion. People couldn't get jobs. So I had to come. I took Margaret Thatcher's advice. I got on my bike. Norman Tebbit's advice, wasn't it? Got on my bike and started looking for work.
And that was in the mid to late 1980s?
That's right.
Before you came to London, had you been involved in any form of activism as a young person in Northern Ireland?
Yes, from a very early age, I was an altar boy for the Catholic Church.
And any political activism?
No, no political activism, no.
And when did your involvement in political activism in London begin?
I think through the trade union movement, really. Through the trade union movement. I became a member of the NUR, which then became the RMT. And I got involved in socialist groups through that.
And when was that? Was that shortly after coming to London?
Shortly after, I would say maybe a year or two after.
I'd like to explore with you, by way of an overview, some of the groups and organisations with which you were involved or with which you've been linked in SDS reports.
Okay.
Focusing on the time period between 1993 and 2007, you explain in your witness statement at paragraphs 1.2 to 1.6 that you were involved with a number of activist groups and organisations,
Yes.
namely Colin Roach Centre,
Yes.
Independent Working Class Association,
Yes.
Red Action, Anti-Fascist Action. We'll come to the extent of
The
connection
extent, yeah,
in due
but-
course,
Yeah.
and No Platform.
Yes.
At paragraph 1.8 of your statement, you say this: I was not a Socialist Workers' Party member, but I worked with them in the Anti-Nazi League and Stand Up to Racism throughout the 1990s and up to 2025.
Yes.
Noting you say you were not a member of the SWP,
Yeah.
what do you mean when you say you worked with them in the Anti-Nazi League and Stand Up to Racism?
Well, basically, the Anti-Nazi League were a group of kind of middle-class liberals who thought it was a good idea to go out and put themselves in danger because at that time fascists were carrying out attacks on paper sales. So we would go along and do a good deed for the week and sort of stand beside them so they didn't get attacked.
And that was with your involvement with the Anti-Nazi League, was it?
I wasn't a member of the Anti-Nazi
No.
League. No, I was just a steward who would go along and try to deter attacks by having a physical presence there.
So how would you become involved with SWP demonstrations?
I think it was again through the trade union movement. At that point, the SWP and the Anti-Nazi League were the biggest, I think, organisation on the left that were anti-racist. I think at that time as well, the fascism was quite bad. They were blowing up gay pubs in London, and the Admiral Duncan comes to mind. So I think that, yeah, it was just, I thought, was my civic duty to step in and stop people from getting attacked because they disagreed with fascists.
Paragraph 1.7 of your statement on page 3, you explain that you were briefly a member of the Socialist Party in 2012. Does it follow that you weren't a member during 93 to 2007?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Yeah, I wasn't a member of the Socialist Party.
Could I just bring up a document, please? That's MPS 0749081. And that's at B36 of your bundle, sir. And if we look at this, it's understood to be a report by Carlos Araki, dated the 5th of October 2001.
Yeah.
The title is Socialist Party.
Right.
And we can see at the foot of that document that your name is listed. So do we take it that the report is incorrect to link you to the Socialist Party at that time?
Well, I think what we'd done was sometimes you would contribute to a fighting fund, so you would give them a donation. I believe that's what it's referring to.
So this is a record of your donation to a fighting fund, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so let's say the SWP were collecting for Stand Up to Racism outside, and I give them 20 quid. That doesn't make me a member of Stand Up to of the SWP.
And as you've also touched upon, you were active within the trade union movement as a member of RMT, and later as an RMT representative, including 14 years as a full-time union official.
Yeah, that's right.
Taking all of the groups that I've covered together, does that sound like a comprehensive account of your involvement with groups at that time, or is there any which have been missed out?
I think that's it. Yeah, I think you've covered them. Yeah.
I'd like to explore your involvement with some of those groups, if I may, and starting with the Colin Roach Centre.
Yeah.
Please, can we show UCPI 37801 and page 2? So that's in the Colin Roach Centre bundle for your note at A3. That'll be displayed on the screen, though. This is a membership leaflet which has been exhibited to the third witness statement of Mark Metcalfe for the Colin Roach Centre. At the foot of page 2, we can see the address of the centre on Bradbury Street in Stoke Newington, Hackney.
Yeah.
And then on page 2, at the head of the first column, it has this text which provides some background to the centre. It says, the Colin Roach Centre has been set up with the aim of assisting those Hackney people collectively struggling for a better future. Those people from our community who are involved in setting up the centre have named it the Colin Roach Centre to remember and commemorate the death of a young black man at the hands of Stoke Newington police. And then if we go further down that column, it lists the involvement of the Hackney Trade Union Support Unit, the Hackney Community Defence Association, and a Turkish and Kurdish community group. Then in the middle column, starting at the end of the fourth line, it says this: the aim is to encourage people to organise and to take direct action about situations that affect their lives, whether it's by strikes, community campaigns, resistance to racist attacks, or whatever. Is that an accurate description of the centre when you were a member?
I believe so. I think that at that time as well, they just exposed the Hackney police dealing in drugs, well documented. You could all Google it if you want. The institutional racism in Hackney police, the regular abduction of young black males in particular, and beating them to a pulp in the back of their vans. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the case. Yeah.
Now, clearly, there are a number of diverse campaigns and activities run from that centre. You've spoken about police accountability and corruption. We've also touched upon the fact that there's a connection to the trades union movement.
Yeah.
What was your particular interest at the CRC?
I was definitely there initially as a trade unionist. They had basically free photocopying machines. Mark Metcalfe in particular was good at, I know it sounds, it's an age ago, but not many people had PC skills or could produce a leaflet or anything like that, so it was like a really good resource for trade unionists.
And I understand that you were the trade union liaison officer at the Colin Roach Centre between 95 and 98. Yeah. What did that role involve?
Well, it would involve if there was a lot of migrant workers around the area who were in absolutely appalling conditions, and some of them were very sort of precarious employment and massive exploitation. So it was helping them to organise really, and giving them facilities and translators to organise and get their story out to people in Hackney and wider afield.
Now, I understand that you first met Mark Jenner, at the time calling himself Mark Cassidy, through your involvement with the Colin Roach Centre. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe at the time he looked like Mark Metcalfe introduced me to him. He was, I remember him having very, very long hair. He was obviously pretending to be they called them crusties at the time. That they were like people who didn't wash and that, they had sort of nitty hair and. Yeah, I remember him well, yeah.
Now, Mr. Jenner, I believe, became a part of the Colin Roach Centre in March 1995. Can you assist, how soon after that date do you think you may have met him?
I can't say, but I think it was a pretty small organisation, so I'd imagine within a month, I would have thought, yeah.
So it's likely as a new face to the organisation you would have come across him quite soon.
If somebody was, yeah.
And you've described his appearance. Do you recall your first contact with Mr. Jenner?
Yeah, he came across, this is the normal guy, yeah.
Which areas of your interest within the centre overlapped with those of Mark Cassidy?
Well, Mark involved himself in all sorts of things. I mean, he would say he was there to look for extremists, but the reality was there was no extremists in the Colin Road Centre. What he was there to do is to try to destabilise a very effective community organisation that was exposing the police. That was his real reason for being there.
Now, Alison, we don't need to go to the document, but Alison in her witness statement suggested that your relationship with Mr. Jenner centred on what she calls rank and file trade union politics and anti-fascism, and also socialising in pubs. Is that a fair summary?
I would say it's probably a fair summary, yeah.
And there weren't any other areas of the centre's work that you were both involved in?
Not that I remember, no.
In October 1995, a new organisation called Resistance was launched from the CRC. Mm-hmm. What was your involvement with Resistance?
I was a member. I can't remember if I took any kind of leading roles. I probably was maybe trade union role. It's so long ago, but I was definitely part of it, and I was attending meetings regularly. I probably had some sort of title, or I can't particularly remember.
And it was a group that grew out of the Colin Roach Centre.
Yeah.
Why was the new group necessary?
Well, because I think it was because there were so many different groups. There was just complete disorganisation, and I think that in a lot of ways, I mean, this is another sort of fallacy that Jenner's put out, that he was targeting Mark Metcalfe because Mark Metcalfe was a leading anti-fascist and member of AFA. It was well known at the time that Mark Metcalfe had physically fallen out with the leadership of AFA. So again, this is a lie. What would you expect from a man that deceived his wife and his girlfriend for 5 years? He was there, Jenner was there, to stop the exposure of police drug dealing and brutality. That's what he was there for.
So coming back to the point on Resistance, it was to do with a more organised approach to the work. Is that a fair summary?
It was, yeah.
Could we bring up, please, the intelligence report dated the 31st of October 1995? That's MPS 0245625, and that's B3 of your bundle, sir. This refers to a conference at the Halkivy Centre on Saturday, the 28th of October 1995, at which you are recorded as having been present. Do you recall this event?
I went to lots of conferences here, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look at the report a little bit more. Paragraph 2 refers to an anarchist Marxist divide amongst the CRC members. Do you recall what that issue was? Is that the organisation point you've talked about, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was just, at the time, the anarchists failed to recognise any democracy. I mean, you would have a discussion, you would have a vote, and then they would just go off and do what they wanted anyway. So it was just impossible to kind of work with them.
So it was what you and the supporters considered a more organised and democratic approach to work.
I was a Marxist, yeah. I was a Marxist.
And at paragraph 4 of this document, it says this: it's hoped that the policies of Resistance will attract new members, especially disgruntled left-wingers who are still interested in politics, but who dislike Marxist hierarchy. This has some potential because Resistance will draw upon the influence and respect gained from the HCDA and the community involvement which attracts the anarchist crusty element under a political umbrella. In theory, Resistance has the potential to grow, even if only in Hackney, into a credible anti-establishment political organisation. So, was Resistance designed to attract new left-wing members who disliked Marxist hierarchy?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's different kinds of Marxism. There is democratic centralism, which is the old Marxist tradition, and then there's much more kind of libertarian Marxism, which is much more horizontal rather than vertical structures. So the theory was not one that I particularly agreed with, I have to say, but the theory was that people who were not in the hierarchical organisations like anarchists would be drawn into the Colin Road Centre, yeah.
Moving now to anti-fascist action. You've explained in your witness statement at paragraph 1.5 that you supported the anti-racist and anti-fascist activities of anti-fascist action in the 1990s, which defended demonstrations and paper-selling stalls from attacks by fascists. Now, you've already touched on that a little earlier in your evidence.
Yeah.
When did your association with anti-fascist action begin?
I think when the far right started to attack paper sellers, and basically the BNP at this point were on the streets, so were the NF, so were lots of splinter groups, physically attacking left-wing meetings and paper sales, and even trade union branches upon occasion. And I was kind of a trade union steward at the time, and you would meet these people, and I became involved in them.
And for how long were you involved with AFA, or AFA, sorry?
A few years.
And what form did your support take?
I would go on leaflets. I would steward demonstrations. If attacked, I would defend myself.
Yes, you said in your witness statement that AFA defended demonstrations.
Yeah.
I take it from what you're saying that you were involved in that defence.
Yes.
How did that defence manifest? What form did it take?
Well, if fascists physically attacked a demonstration, we would defend that demonstration physically.
You say you attended a number of counter-protests where members of the National Front, British National Party, or other fascists mobilised. What was your personal role at those sorts of events?
My personal role was, again, they help people if the fascists attack them. They act as a deterrent with other stewards and try to prevent that attack from just by being there. And if the events were attacked, we would physically defend them.
Please can we show MPS 0728967 and page 5 of that document, please. Sir, this is not in Mr. Hedley's bundle, but is in HN15's bundle at B27 for your note. And if we could go, please, to page 5. This is a section of the SDS annual report from 1995 and 1996 relating to what is described there as the extreme left. If we could go over leaf, please. At page 6, in relation to AFA, it says this: an aspect of extreme left-wing activity which has continued unhindered has been the steady targeting of right-wing activists for attack by members of anti-fascist action. These attacks, on the relatively rare occasions on which they actually occur, are vicious and unrestrained. Serious injuries can be and have been inflicted. SDS operations to gather intelligence about the individuals concerned in these attacks all seem to be committed by very small groups of activists acting in isolation, have good prospects of success. Now, this is what it says in the SDS report. Do you recognise that description of AFA activity?
Certainly not, no. Certainly my involvement was that we were defending demonstrations. We were strictly there in a defensive role to make sure that people weren't attacked.
So does it follow that you were never present when members of AFA attacked right-wing activists?
I was there when members of AFA defended themselves physically from right-wing attack.
In relation to serious injuries, were you ever aware of serious injuries being inflicted at these type of confrontations, whether as a result of aggression or as self-defence?
I remember being injured on a number of occasions, yeah, by members of the far right.
And what sort of injuries did you sustain?
Hit by bottles, sticks, punches, yeah.
And did you ever witness members of the extreme right wing suffering similar or more serious injuries?
Well, it's hard to tell in a melee, but I'd imagine
Coming back to AFA, please may we display MPS 02458882. So this is in your bundle at B4. This is an intelligence report dated the 26th of January 96, referring to a meeting between members of AFA and the Colin Roach Centre to discuss members of the CRC joining AFA. And we can see at paragraph 1, it suggests that the CRC affiliated to AFA as a body. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, at that time, the BNP were particularly virulent on the streets. This was the point at which they were carrying out attacks, 2 or 3 attacks a week on people. So the decision was taken to have as many stewards available as possible to cover as many demonstrations as we could, as many stalls as we could, as many paper sales as we could. So we affiliated the AFA to add our stewarding group to their stewarding group and to draw on their stewarding group.
To form a sort of collective
anti-fascist stewards, yeah.
At paragraph 2 of this document, the report goes on to describe a further meeting taking place. You're referred as being present at that meeting, and it appears to suggest that you were a bridging contact between the CRC and AFA. And was that because you were already a member or known to AFA?
I don't think I was a member at this point. No, I'd probably drifted away from it. There was no real kind of formal membership as such. It was just... it was made up of disparate groups, and at that point I was concentrating more on stuff around the Hackney area with the Colin Roach Centre. I did know people in AFA. Yeah, I'd met them before.
So almost a membership almost by association rather than a formal membership.
Yeah, I think that's... If you were an independent member of AFA and you didn't belong to one of the organisations that were in it, you just turned up as a steward, basically, yeah. So that's what I did. I turned up as a steward.
Thank you. At paragraph 106 of his statement, we don't need to show it, Mark Jenner, who provided the information for this report, explains that he attended this second meeting with you. Is he right?
I can't remember the specific meeting, but I know I did attend meetings with Mark, so it possibly is right. Yeah.
Halfway through that second paragraph, it says this: Steve Hedley has spoken privately to the AFA hierarchy to confirm that no one else at the CRC presented problems, stating that a number of competent activists are willing to join AFA on an individual basis if the CRC is accepted. So the report suggests, I think, that you were able to vouch for the CRC members. Is that right?
That was right. I'd imagine I would have said these people are stewards. They've defended demonstrations on a number of occasions. They've defended paper stalls. They're good people and can be relied on. Yeah.
And that's presumably what is meant by competent activists.
Yeah.
But would you yourself have used the term competent activist at the time?
Sorry,
would you yourself have used the term competent activist at that time?
No. It's not a phraseology that I would have used.
No. And just for clarity, does that mean individuals who would be prepared to use violence either as an attack or in self-defence?
Well, certainly, as far as I was concerned, competent individuals, or what that phraseology means, is people who would defend demonstrations and defend paper stalls. There was never any intention to go on the offensive and attack people.
And was one of the members you vouched for at that point Mark Jenner?
I believe Mark had his own... It's possible, right? But I thought Mark had his own relationship with people in AFA.
Yeah, we'll come on to a report now then that might assist. If we could show MPS 5790. So this is not in Mr. Hedley's bundle, but is in the bundle of HN15 at C52. This is a report dated the 19th of December 1995, relating to a meeting on the 14th of December 95, so a little before the report we've just looked at. One of the delegates from the Colin Roach Centre, if we look down at paragraph 5, was Mark Cassidy.
Yeah.
Is this the sort of relationship that you thought Mr. Jenner may have had with AFA?
Yes.
What level of influence would that have afforded Mr. Jenner within the CRC first?
Within the Colin Road Centre?
As a linked member to AFA?
That's a good question. I would say it probably would have went the other way, because he would have 20 stewards to bargain with when he was speaking to AFA about things.
So, well, if we look at if we flip the question and say what would his influence within AFA have been?
I think it would have been considerable.
Because he had numbers behind him.
Yes.
That he could effectively commit to their activities.
Yes.
And in practice, is that what happened, or are you taking a theoretical point?
In practice, yeah, we defended a number of festivals, community festivals, the ARA Festival, Anti-Racist Alliance Festival in Hackney. We had AFA stewards come and help us with that. That was threatened by the BNP. We were several times we were asked to go and make sure meetings weren't attacked and make sure paper sellers were okay, and we reciprocated with AFA stewards, and it was just having enough people there to deter an attack. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe return to the document we had up before, MPS 024582, the meeting of the report dated 26th of January 96. At paragraph 3 of this statement, of this document, it says this: a formal meeting to seal the pact will take place in February. In the meantime, NOAA has told CRC members that there will be a London-wide mobilisation to confront fascists currently active in Feltham, Middlesex in the near future. You have a cipher list on your desk, if that assists you with knowing who NOAA is, but it is a name that is remaining private. Thinking back, do you recall a mobilisation taking place in Feltham?
Feltham? We very rarely went out of London. That's right under Feltham's
quite far
West London, isn't it?
Southwest London.
Southwest. I can't remember that particular mobilisation, to be honest.
When we look at the term mobilisation, mobilisation to confront fascists, does that mean a violent confrontation, or does it mean something else?
Well, as far as I was concerned, we were strictly there as a defensive role, as I've explained several times. Whatever this mobilisation might have been, it might have been a paper sale, it might have been leafleting the local area, and stewards would have gone along to make sure that people weren't attacked.
Yes, I appreciate you say you don't recall that particular one, but in general terms,
that's what happened in general, yeah.
Please may we display MPS 0245891. So this is B5 in your bundle. This is a nominal up-to-date and information pro forma dated the 30th of January 96, so just a few days after that report on the meeting between the Colin Roach Centre and AFA. And if we can see on page 1, we can see it relates to you. We'll come back to this page later, but if we go over leaf to page 2, please. It says here, It says, Steve Hedley, a committed Republican from Derry, is working closely with both Mark Metcalfe on behalf of the Colin Roach Centre Resistance and Harold on behalf of the IWCA Red Action to promote both organisations. He's also very keen to become more deeply involved with anti-fascist action. Hedley is admired for his political astuteness and feared for his physical presence. He's a violent individual. We'll come back to comments about violence in due course, but were you keen at this time to become more deeply involved with AFA, as it suggests here?
I think that initiative came from Mark Cassidy. I mean, I have to say, I've just read the next part. It says, Hedley had upset some female members of the Colin Roach Centre with my abrasive manner. Well, I wasn't going off and pretending to be somebody else and practically raping them, was I? Like Mr. The Mark was doing. I mean, he was pretending to be somebody else to gain their consent and then going to bed with him. So it's not really consent, is it? And then
Well,
he says I've got an abrasive manner.
Well, if we return to the point on involvement with AFA, do I take it from the answer that you've given that you think it was Mr. Jenner who was keen for this? Was he driving this, or was it something that was in tandem
He was
with
very
you?
keen. In fact, looking back on it, I think he was probably very too keen to get involved with AFA.
And he did become involved with AFA?
He did, yeah.
Moving to the Independent Working Class Association, IWCA, one of the organisations that you've confirmed earlier that you were involved, and which is mentioned, I think, in that document we've just had up on screen. You don't refer in your witness statement, I think, to being involved with this organisation. I'd like to show you 3 reports, then ask for your...
IWCA?
Sorry? IWCA.
I think I do.
Paragraph 1.2.
Yeah.
Well, if we just have a... We'll look
Paragraph
at the
1.2,
extent...
page 2.
Okay, apologies, that must be my mistake. If we look at 3 reports, and then I'll ask for the extent of your involvement, please. Yes. I think in this you say you're involved for 1 year in 1997, just to correct that. Between 97 and 98. Very good. If I could take you to a few reports. MPS 0246047. So this is B7. This is an event pro forma dated the 1st of March 96 about a meeting to be held on the 20th of March 96. At the end, we see that you were recorded as an expected speaker on behalf of IWCA at a meeting of CRC and the Newer Monitoring Project. Another document on this point, MPS 0246066, which is B8 of the bundle.
I think I need to make an important distinction at this point. At this point, the fascists had moved away from street bullet. The bigger organisations of the fascists, the BNP, had moved away from street confrontations. So when it refers to fighting the fascists, this was an ideological battle. Okay, this was no longer a physical fight because the BNP had made in fact, their leader at the time, Nick Griffin, had made a statement saying that there was going to be no more marches, rallies, or punch-ups, something like that. So they were no longer trying to dominate the streets, which was their political objective, and stop their opponents organising. So this, when it's talking about fighting fascism, this was not any longer physical confrontation.
Yes, I think we'll come on to look at it, but it's to do with filling the political vacuum.
Yes.
And if we, so on this document, we can see in the second line that you're a keen supporter of the newly formed Red Action promoted IWCA. So that's in 1996, so maybe a little bit before the dates you've indicated in your statement.
Yes, possible, yeah.
And the next document, MPS 0246343, which is an event pro forma concerning a meeting on the 29th of May 96. And the report describes a meeting to discuss an IWCA policy document which had been written by Red Action. And then the report goes on to explain that the document was approved at that meeting. And if we look at the list of names on page 2, we can see that you're recorded as attending a meeting, seemingly on behalf of the Colin Roach Centre at that stage, along with Mark Cassidy, which is Mark Jenner's cover name. You've given an indication a little bit of what the aims behind the IWCA were.
Yeah,
what was your personal involvement
It was
with the group?
It was the get councillors elected, participate in the democratic system. I think they've got a few councillors elected in Blackbird's Leeds estates. I got 2 there.
In Oxford. In Oxford, I think.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And they stood councillors around the rest of the country. I don't know if participating in democracy is considered as a subversion by Mr. Cassidy, but I mean, it doesn't really come up a lot here, does he? I mean, we've gone leafleting, we've gone to a meeting and asked people to vote for candidates at local elections.
In relation to approving the document that was for discussion, was that by a vote?
Either by a vote or by a consensus, I'd imagine. I can't really remember.
In which Mr. Cassidy or Mr. Jenner would have
had a vote.
And then if we just look at the aims, there's another document I can take you to, MPS 0246345. Which is B16 of the bundle. And this is a document which refers in the second paragraph, I think, to AFA being the cutting edge of the IWCA in working class areas by driving out the BNP to create a political vacuum which the IWCA will fill. And that I think is the point that you were making, is it?
No, that's not the point I was making at all. At this point, AFA was not taking part in any street activities. There was a political move away from street activities because there was no street activities at the time. The fascists weren't attacking people. So if what they're saying is that AFA did create that space by protecting demonstrations and deterring the BNP from coming onto the streets, that's one thing. But it wasn't the strategy going forward because the BNP weren't there.
But in relation to IWCA being an organisation to go into working class communities to effectively be an alternative to the BNP's new approach.
Yeah, so this was a time where we had the sort of New Labour, Tony Blairites, capture of the Labour Party. Working class people were feeling disenfranchised. They had nobody to vote for. And the only people that were interested in at that point seemed to be the far right, who were organising in working class communities. The traditional left weren't doing it. So it did leave a space open for fascists to grow and fascism to grow. And the IWCA, which was mainly, I would say, one of the most working class organisations that I've ever encountered in Britain, was a left-of-centre organisation which sought to talk to working class people in terms that they could understand, yeah, and act in the interests of the working class.
Thank you. The inquiry understands that Mr. Jenner joined IWCA and was appointed to the steering committee. Do you recall that appointment?
I don't, but it could have been true, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue the point now.
So I presume you're not unable to speak to any level of influence he would have had within that organisation, if you don't recall it?
I had very little to do with him after a time that was his sphere of interest. I was more always a trade unionist. And
You may then not be able to help me with the next few questions, but we'll go through them anyway. Paragraph 107.4 of his witness statement, Mr. Jenner states that IWCA was completely controlled by Red Action. Now, for general context, Red Action is described in a summary with an SDS report from August 2000 as an extreme left-wing group which maintains an active interest in Irish Republican activities. We don't need to go to that, but that comes from MPS 303836, so in HN 15's bundle C282. From your own experience or knowledge, is that a fair description of Red Action?
I think that once the BNP had moved off the streets and the ceasefire in Northern Ireland occurred, and the north of Ireland occurred, I think there was no real Republican groups that were organising in London. So I would have to say, yeah, Red Action were very sympathetic to Irish republicanisms, but I don't think it's kind of trailed into the IWCA times. I don't think that was their focus. Their focus then was building electoral strategies in working class communities.
May we please now look at MPS 0246345, which is in the bundle at B16. This is a report of an AFA meeting on the 2nd of June 1996. We've looked at it before, but if you see at page 2, your name appears in the list of persons identified. On page 2 in the source comment, it says this: the overall impression given by this meeting was that AFA is an integral part of the IWCA, with its own emphasis on white working class males who enjoy violence. Scrolling.
It sounds to me like somebody who's enjoying their posting and doesn't want that they stop, is trying to invent things to keep his posting going, really, isn't it?
So, do I take it that doesn't accord with your recollection?
Yeah, there was all sorts of people there. I think in some meetings that I attended, there was more women than men. I mean, this is just like, I don't know, maybe Jenner's fantasy or something. Maybe he was attracted to big working class men or something. I have no idea.
I mean, it really doesn't sound on all fours with the description you've given of IWCA being a more political group away from violence.
Okay, so I mean, it's not just my opinion, is it? You've got records of local councillors being elected. Okay, you don't get local councillors being elected by, big burly bucks going around the door saying, vote for us, or, we'll break your windows or something. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre.
Moving on to Red Action itself. You say at paragraph 1.4 of your statement, I was not a member of Red Action, but met their members on anti-racist and anti-fascist activities.
Yeah.
Given that you had an involvement with IWCA and AFA, why were you not part of Red Action?
Why was I not part of Red Action? At different politics. I was a socialist, so I was, just different politics.
Can we bring up, please, Mr. Jenner's witness statement, which is UCPI 35283, page 70, please, and show paragraph 145.2. Which is the foot of that page and then overleaf. And if you see there, Mr. Jenner in his statement to this inquiry says, Red Action, AFA and IWCA were essentially the same organisation and all pursued a policy or strategy which included the potential for violence and public disorder. Now, I take it from your evidence today that you disagree with that account.
I mean, if this is this guy who's been embedded in the organisation, and this is the kind of dross he's coming up with, I mean, I dread to think what his superiors were doing. This is just rubbish. I mean, being very peripherally involved in the IWCA and AFA, I can tell you that this just is not true. The violence, any kind of violence, was not even countenanced in the IWCA. There was no need for anti-fascist violence if the fascists weren't attacking people. I mean, if the fascists aren't there, the raison d'etre of anti-fascism is they oppose fascists, and if there's no fascists, who are you going to fight with?
In terms of the foundation and running of these groups, is it right that they were all linked groups?
Were they all linked? You would have members of Red Action. I don't know if Red Action continued. They disbanded at some point. I don't know when they disbanded. AFA was disbanded. AFA was no more. It had gone. And as AFA sort of stopped and became, some people went into the IWCA, other people didn't. So you had people who were in AFA who joined the IWCA. You had also other people who were not in AFA who joined the IWCA.
So when you say in your statement that you met Red Action members at certain events, there wouldn't have exclusively been IWCA AFA events. That would have been wider than that, would it?
So Red Action at some point dissolved. I don't know when they dissolved. Some of them went to the IWCA, some of them didn't. So it wouldn't have been exclusively that. It would have been, I would have met them at. So Red Action were a key player in AFA, so they would have been stewarding demonstrations. But it's not. The IWCA was a completely different character. This was not a student group. This was like a political organisation.
Now, the inquiry understands that Mark Jenner became involved with Red Action and rose to become its North London organiser. We're not going to go there, but that's in his statement at paragraph 56. Were you aware of Mark Jenner's involvement with Red Action?
Well, he told me he was the AFA organiser. He didn't tell me he was a Red Action organiser. So I'm not sure where that's come from, or if it's true.
So presumably you're unable to speak to any extent of his influence?
No.
At paragraph 51.5 of his witness statement, Mr. Jenner says this: Red Action connection to Irish republicanism was the longer-term link that I was being targeted against. From your knowledge of the organisation, is the report we looked at a few minutes ago correct in asserting a connection between Red Action and Irish republicanism?
I think Red Action had well-known links, or members of Red Action had well-known links to Irish republicanism, yeah.
Well-known, publicly well-known?
Yes, yes.
To the extent that, in fact, in the aftermath of the Manchester IRA bombing, IWCA was forced to cancel an event because of its connection with Red Action. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that, but...
I can take you to a report which sets it out, but I don't think that can take us much further if you don't recall it. In Mr. Saraki's chronological list of deployment, which is MPS 0071194, B85, sir.
So we're on the Saraki now? We're on to
Saraki now. Page 1, final paragraph. It says this, and that fourth line down. Hedley was a leading member of East London AFA and was prominent within Red Action, having a close relationship with the leading members of the organisation. It then goes on to suggest connections with London and Ulster.
I'm not now, nor ever have I been a member of Red Action.
So, were you connected to prominent members in Red Action, if not a member yourself?
Not in a personal sense.
And I appreciate I'm asking you to speculate, but is there any... Do you know why Carlo Saracchi may have gained that impression?
Well,
that you
again,
were or had
like-
been prominent?
Like Jenner, I mean, I think these people were Walter Mitty's. I mean, I think that they were inventing things to keep the easy life going. I mean, they were just, what were they getting paid to do? Hang around and hand out leaflets and getting, put up in flats and wined and dined. I mean, how many arrests did their intelligence actually result in?
If we
Is
could
it zero?
If we could move to your involvement with No Platform. You say in your statement, paragraph 1.6, that you supported the actions of No Platform for approximately 1 year between 1999 and 2000, which similarly opposed racism and fascism by leafleting estates against the election of BNP candidates and also counter-protests against the far right. The inquiries disclosed a number of reports to you. Within those documents, the earliest reference to your involvement in No Platform is in MPS 305536, which is a report by Carlo Saracchi dated 19th of March 2001.
2001?
2001. And the latest dated report describing you as a current member of No Platform, which we can bring up, is MPS 0034060, which is from April 2004. So that suggests a later and slightly longer involvement with No Platform. Does that sound right to you?
Look, No Platform was a very, very loose organisation. It had no formal membership structure or anything like that. So, look, it's possible that I've got the dates wrong, but I think it ran for the very most 18 months. I think it was kind of wrapped up after that.
If we could move to a report, MPS 306652, that's B32 in the bundle. This is an intelligence report by Carlo Saracchi dated the 3rd of September 2001. And in that, the first paragraph, we see that you're involved in, we see that you're described arranging the stewarding and security for forthcoming Hunger Strikers March in September on behalf of No Platform. Was that your role at that time?
Well, No Platform. There was kind of resurgence. The BNP had come off the streets, but the National Front and there was a small splinter group called the British Movement, and there was also an outright neo-Nazi organisation called Combat 18. I think at this point as well, who were attacking marches and demonstrations. So yeah, we'd been asked to go and do that. Yeah.
And again, I appreciate you have touched on this before. What would that stewarding support involve?
Same as before. Stand on the demonstrations, make sure people were safe, keep people on the demonstrations, deter fascist attacks, respond physically if we were attacked.
That document can come down. Please, can we display MPS 308006? So this is B41. This is an intelligence report by Mr. Neri, Mr. Saracchi, apologies, dated the 12th of February 2002. In the third paragraph, it says this. It refers to Dan Gilman stepping down as Chief Steward of London No Platform and goes on to explain, Steve Hedley has agreed to take overall responsibility for the group, whilst Carlo Neri will act as Chief Steward for the SP section and Mario as Chief Steward for the anarchist contingent. Bearing in mind the latter's likely incarceration in the near future, Privacy will act as his deputy. The reorganisation will fit in with the return to a looser structure that NP had in its formative stages. Groups will come together to oppose the right wing as a united front, but will still be able to distribute their own literature and act independently of the other factions within the organisation. Now, is this document correct that you took over from Dan Gilman as Chief Steward? at this point?
I don't remember that at all. I think I would have remembered being made chief steward. I think that would have been a memorable event. So I think that's just invention.
Do you remember Carlos Araki being considered the head steward for the SP contingent?
To be honest, I can't remember.
Do you recall what involvement Carlos Araki had with No Platform? What was the extent of his involvement?
It was like everybody else. He was a steward. He would turn up and he would steward demonstrations, steward leafletings, and make sure that people weren't attacked.
And when you say steward leafletings, do you mean leafletings, the people from the left wing distributing leaflets, or people from the right wing?
So we would as left wing people, they would go on and give out anti-racist leaflets, for example, or anti-homophobic leaflets, or whatever, whichever group was under attack by fascists at that point. And we would go along, and when they were giving out leaflets, we would provide physical deterrence from attack.
And that was considered necessary?
Well, it was necessary because Combat 18 in particular, I mean, they weren't like the BNP who had some sort of political strategy. They were just in the violence and kind of mayhem. They were the people that were going around planting bombs in London. Yep. So they were really nasty people, yeah.
Could we stay with the same document on page 2, about halfway down the page in the source comments section? It says this. The council elections are viewed as a gift to the NP as they will bring BNP activists out onto the streets where they will be vulnerable to attack from NP. Police attention is expected to be low due to the nature of election canvassing, and therefore the potential for violent confrontation is high. So it seems here that the suggestion being that the BNP would be on the streets to canvass for local elections, and that this meant that the potential for violent confrontation was high. Why do you think that would have been the case?
I have no idea. I mean, I just think this is another example of Neary making things fit his strategy. I mean, which is the sort of sponge off a taxpayer and get paid to lounge about drinking beer all day. There was never any point where I was certainly present that No Platform went, oh, we're going to go and attack the BNP when they're leafleting. I mean,
please may we go to MPS 0073304. C3 in the bundle, sir. This is an SDS document headed Overview of Militant Anti-Fascism in London and Beyond since 2000. On page 1, 5th paragraph, in the second line, we see you're described as a founder member of No Platform, and it's said that the group was established to violently confront the extreme right wing whenever they were engaged in street activity. Then at the final paragraph on page 1, an overleaf to page 2, it says this. The motivation of the different founders of the group varied according to their political backgrounds. Mario, Privacy and Hedley came from an AFA Red Action background. They vehemently disagreed with the direction taken by their leadership and believed that violent street activity was a very useful and legitimate tactic dealing with the extreme right wing. The name that's been redacted for Privacy is on your cipher list, if that assists you. But putting it bluntly, was No Platform established to violently confront the extreme right wing whenever they were engaged in street activity?
No Platform was established to provide protection for a stewarding group for people on the left when they were giving out leaflets, demonstrations and meetings.
Was it your view at the time that violence was a very useful and legitimate tactic to deal with the extreme right wing?
I think in a defensive capacity it was absolutely necessary, because otherwise it's a fascist tactic to control the streets and to stop their opponents organising politically. And if they're successful in doing that, if the left are afraid to come on the streets, then the fascists win. That was a tactic adopted by Adolf Hitler. So we were there purely in a defensive role to maintain a political and legitimate space for people who had different views for fascism.
So this document, when it includes that summary in its overview, is wrong.
Well, I think it's come from a man who's pretended to be somebody else for a number of years, conned several different women into relationships with him. He had a wife as well, didn't he? So, I mean, if you're talking about the sort of veracity and believability of it, that's the sort of character you're dealing with, isn't it?
Returning to the topic of roles within no platform, please can we show MPS 307391, that's B38 in the bundle. This is a report, as we can see, dated 26th of November 2001, with the title No Platform Current Structure. Reporting on a meeting at the Royal Oak Public House in Borough, and it says it's held to formalise positions of responsibility for activists in the London section of No Platform. Looking at the first paragraph and the fourth line of that paragraph, the report suggests that you're present at the meeting. Do you remember this meeting?
The Royal Oak? No, I don't ever meet him. I don't recall the name of the pub. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well, we'll go on and see whether it jogs any memory.
Yeah.
In the third paragraph, your name appears next to responsibility for fundraising union work. So is that accurate? What did these?
That would have a lot of credibility. Yeah, that's what I would have done. Yeah, trade union work and fundraising. Yeah.
Is that what you did do, or
yeah, it's for yeah.
And if we also look, we can see there is a report to Carlo. In the foot of the document, he's Carlo SNU, and in that section that we've just looked at, he's given the responsibility for communications. On page 3, the handler's comment suggests that Carlo is Carlo Siraki, or Carlo Neri, the cover name of Carlo Siraki. Do you remember Carlo Siraki having responsibility for communications?
No.
Was that a role of which you were aware within the organisation?
I can't remember. I remember what I'd done. I remember.
Do you recall Carlo Siraki being influential within the platform?
Yeah, he was fairly influential, yeah.
In what ways was he influential?
He was popular. Then he went off the rails a little bit. He tried to entrap people in the firebombing
I'll just
charity shop.
Stop you there because we will come back to that
Okay,
in some detail.
Okay.
I don't want to. I think you'll have ample time to address that. I'm conscious of the time, sir. I'm about to move into another section of questioning. Is it opportune for an afternoon break, or would you like to go further?
Forgive me. I think it would be. Hello. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Apologies, 10 minutes.
Mr. Hedley, I'd like to explore a little further your attitude towards violence in general terms and then look at some reports on that topic, please. In your witness statement, at paragraph 1.11, you say, I was only prepared to use violence in self-defence if attacked by members of the far right, and that's been your evidence again today, hasn't it? In relation to the times where you have felt compelled to use violence in self-defence, can you think whether any of those attacks would have happened in the presence of either Mr. Jenner or Mr. Saraki?
Certainly in the presence of Mr. Jenner. There was an orange order march through London, which was not particularly an issue. The issue was that they had Combat 18 neo-Nazi people with them who'd said that they were going to attack various places where left people met around the Holborn area, as far as I could remember. And at that point, I witnessed Mark Cassidy striking a member of the Orange Order, who I believe was trying to attack him. And I think I went to Mark's aid and pushed away the member of the Orange Order from Mark as well.
Was that an incident at the White Hart Public House, do you think?
I believe it was, yeah.
We'll come back to that if I may, in due course. But the question I asked was, when you used self-defense, when you used violence in self-defense,
yeah,
would Saraki or Jenner have seen it? Mr. Saraki or Mr. Jenner have seen it?
I think Jenner saw it on that occasion because there was not more than one of them. They were trying to attack us. A sort of a mob tried to attack us outside that public house, and I think he witnessed me defending myself there, partly to defend him, partly to defend myself.
And in your view, would the fact that it was self-defence have been obvious to an observer?
Depends what view the observer had. If the observer had a clear and unobstructed view, I would have thought so.
Could we return, please, to the nominal pro forma from the 30th of January 96, which we looked at earlier, MPS 0245891. That's B5, sir. And I'd like to explore a couple of points in it. On page 1, in the section at the foot of the page, which is PEX, it says violent and strong Irish accent. And then at page 2, in the second paragraph, it says Hedley is admired for his political astuteness and feared for his physical presence. He is a violent individual. Now, there's nothing specific in this report to support the comments that you were violent. Are you aware of any reason why Mark Jenner would have described you in this way?
He's playing up the well-known stereotypes about the Irish. In fact, there's not a stereotype in there. He's not playing up to the fact that I'm working class, the fact that I'm broad, I'd imagine. The fact that I've got an Irish accent is something that unfortunately a lot of English people associate with aggression. I don't think I'm a particularly aggressive individual. Just a little bit about myself that he hasn't put in there. I've got a BA, I've got a master's degree, I've got a PGCE. I'm not some thug that hangs around just wanting to attack people.
Now, he would have known you for about 9 months by this stage. Would you have attended events together by the time he drafted it?
I would imagine, yes, we would have, yeah.
And would he have seen you being involved in violence?
Other than when I went to his aid, this is the
end of January 96.
Jenner.
This is, yes.
No, I don't think that was the case at all, no.
would you have told him either seriously or in jest about having been involved in violence in the past?
Well, I mean, if you were attacked by people, you would tell them that you defended yourself. That happens, yeah. Perhaps, yeah. More than likely, yeah.
Were you aware that you were thought of, or certainly in this case described in those terms?
No, I wasn't, and I think that's probably not the view that most people had of me. You know, again, we've got somebody here who's being paid to liaise with two women, one his wife and another one somebody conning their relationship. He was having 3 beers and what was he smoking? Cannabis or something, was it? Drugs. So I don't know how reliable his memory would be. I don't know what effect that would have on people.
If I could return to some specific reporting on violence in which we think you were involved or said to be involved. Please can we show on screen MPS 0246066. This is another nominal up-to-date and information pro forma. And we can see again in the PEC section, it repeats violent, and this time adds that you are said to be a heavy drinker.
I didn't realise that was a crime.
Also within the report, it includes reporting on your family life.
So hold on. I do admit I've got a strong Irish accent. I do admit I had the odd pint of Guinness, half of Guinness. The only violence I've ever employed outside of a boxing ring is self-defence.
And in the second paragraph it says this, it refers to you being arrested while fly posting with Mark Metcalf. And then it goes on to say, it is said that Hedley was tempted to use violence against his arresting officer, but was restrained by the fact that his van was parked nearby and may well have been noted. Now, you address this incident in your statement, paragraph 2.6, where you say, the accusation that I ever considered assaulting an arresting officer is nonsense. I was released and not even charged.
Yeah, from what I remember, I wasn't even the person that was fly posting. I was in a van. Some little copper came up to the van and searched me and brought me to Hedley police station, and then I got released. Why in under heaven would I ever attack them? What reason?
Was Mr. Jenner present when you were arrested?
I don't think he was, no.
The report also comments on what it describes as your temperament. It says, Hedley's comrades are concerned that he's becoming more volatile and that he will inevitably get himself and them involved in troublesome situations. The report also suggests that your heavy drinking was exacerbating your already short temper.
Okay, right. So this is from the guy, the liar who perused between two different women, one his wife, and leading this double life. He uses every stereotype under the sun to describe an Irish person. You want me to take this seriously, do you?
The question, Mr. Hedley, is this: is it accurate?
It's not accurate.
Well, were there any concerns about your temper at that time?
Certainly none that were brought to my attention. I mean, I used to go out with Mark to pubs. I was never in a fight with any sort of altercation when Mark was present, as far as I'm concerned, except when we were defending ourselves against fascists. I mean, this is just pure invention again.
Could we return, please, to MPS 306652, B32, which is the report of the 3rd of September 2001 concerning the Hunger Strikers March. Could I now take you to the second half of paragraph 1, please? It states, Hedley believes that no platform, should have no part in the main demonstration where they will be subject to police scrutiny, and that they should attack the right-wing opposition as they arrive in London in the morning and then around the periphery of the march. This was contrary to Dan Gilman's agreement with the organisers that NP would be a visible security force at the event. Now, on the face of it, this report suggests that you wanted to implement this tactic to facilitate attacks on the right wing. Was that the case?
No, absolutely not. And if my memory serves me correctly, we did go as a stewarding organisation on that march. We did not go off and do anything else, adventurous kind of tactics at all.
Do you think the event went ahead?
I think it did, yeah.
Can I take you to MPS 306854? Now, this suggests that the Hunger Strikers Commemoration March was cancelled.
Right, okay.
But whilst we have this up, the second and third lines say 35 NP activists were available to steward the event, and a confrontation with the right wing was anticipated. Now, the implication, I think, there is that a confrontation was anticipated because it was sought out. What do you say to that?
Well, look, it seems to completely contradict what was said before, because what was said before is that people weren't going to steward the march. They were going to go off and attack people on the periphery. And now they're saying that there was 35 activists who were stewards who were available to steward the march. So it can't even keep continuity between one page and the next.
Well, this is a different. Just to be clear, this is a different report.
Oh, but the
around a
same
month
person.
later.
But the same person.
Same person.
Okay.
Same event.
So okay, so he didn't It didn't change his story on the next page. He changed it on the next report. Noted.
If we could bring up MPS 308753, please. That's B47, sir. This is a report of the 30th of April 2002. And the title of the report, Steve Hedley breaks from no platform. The first paragraph says this: Steve Hedley, a leading member of No Platform, has stated his intention to take a break from No Platform activity. He has become disillusioned with the group, as he had hoped it would follow a more political party-type line, similar to the Independent Working Class Association. In addition to militant anti-fascist activity, this view is at odds with other NP activists who see the group simply as a vehicle for violent confrontation with the extreme right wing.
So here was I described as a violent drunken thug. Now I want to pursue a political strategy and don't want to get involved in violent drunken thuggery, which other members he alleges do. So again, big contradictions in his evidence, isn't there?
Well, can we explore this account? It seems to suggest that you were unhappy with violence with No Platform and looked to leave. Is that right?
I've made it very clear and been consistent when I've talked. In my opinion, anti-fascists are the role of violence is simply in self-defence, and it should be used to steward demonstrations and protect meetings and leafletings.
Looking back at all of the reporting that refers to you as being violent, have you seen any report that describes you actually carrying out acts of violence?
Not that I remember. There could be some. I don't know what he's written. To be honest, I haven't really read a lot of what has been said other than the questions that I was asked. So
well, within the reporting,
right.
I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I've read it, and I have seen nothing to suggest that describes you carrying out acts of violence in that. Can you assist why both Mr. Jenner and Mr. Saraki reported that you were violent, often within their reporting?
Well, this is strange, isn't it? Because if I was violent, surely they would have reported that and details of where I was violent, when I was violent. surely I would have been, if I was going to be violent towards people, that would be assault. If I was initiating the violence, I've not got any criminal record. Sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Hedley, I spoke over. Did you want to finish?
No, it's just to me, Rob, to put it in a nutshell, I think that, well, there is, I have been told and seen documents that Srirachi has met Neary, and they had some sort of a handover.
Sorry, do you Srirachi and Neary are the same person? Do you mean Srirachi met Jenna?
Jenna.
Yes.
And there was a handover. And I think that, I think they were on a good thing. I think that they were deployed. They were living double lives. They had women in different places. They were off drinking, smoking drugs. They had to somehow justify their existence. And I think, let's stereotype a working class Irishman, say he's a drunken thug. Everybody will believe that. But they can't come up. I haven't seen any credible proof of what they're saying. Where is the smoking gun? Where was I violent? Where was I arrested? Where was I taken into custody? Where was I charged? It's not here.
I'd like to now turn to violence involving the undercover officers. Now, you've already touched upon the incident at the White Hart, which we'll come to in just a second. But as a general question, aside from the White Hart, did you ever witness Mark Jenner becoming involved in violence?
I don't think I did, no.
So you think the White Hart was perhaps the only...
I think that's the only time I'm not saying he wasn't involved in violence, but I'm saying that's the only time I've seen him.
Now, in relation to that, in his statement, Mr. Jenner refers to becoming involved in public disorder when he says AFA attacked a pub called the White Hart in Holborn on the day of a Loyalist Combat 18 march. Now, I think that's the event you referred to earlier.
Yeah, so there was definitely violence there, and my recollection was we were standing on the street, and a group of orange men stewarded by Combat 18 started to attack people outside the pub, Jenner being one of them, and he defended himself, and I went to his aid, and I defended myself as well. That was my recollection of that event.
So your account is that Jenner was attacked.
Yeah.
He defended himself.
Yeah, there was a mob coming down the street, hitting people as they went.
Could we bring up, please, paragraph 115.3 of Mr. Jenner's statement? I'd like you to comment on his version of the incident, please. That's UCPI 35283, page 58. Thank you very much. He says this: AFA attacked a pub called the White Hart in Holborn, believed to be Loyalist supporters and band members. The pub was badly damaged and there were a few injuries sustained by the occupants. He remembers being present.
But surprisingly, he doesn't remember having a punch-up.
The suggestion here is that the AFA attacked the pub. Does that accord with your recollection?
I think that there may have well been fighting outside the pub and maybe inside the pub, but certainly from my recollection, it was instigated by a mob coming along the street.
And your recollection is that Mr. Jenner acted in self-defence?
Yes.
Did you see him causing damage or injury?
No.
Now, we know Mr. Jenner was arrested in Dover following a demonstration by AFA against a National Front march in February 1998. Were you part of that demonstration?
I can't be sure, but I think I did go to Dover on one occasion. I'm not sure if I went on that occasion.
So are you able to assist us, whether you were there when there was public disorder resulting in Mr. Jenner being arrested?
No, actually, I would have remembered if he had been arrested, because me and him were quite friendly. No, I wouldn't. I don't think I was there. I almost certainly wasn't there.
Returning to Mr. Jenner's statement, he refers to witnessing violence on a number of occasions. So please could we show page 95, paragraph 203. I'm going to ask you about them in turn, and I'd like to know whether you were there and what your recollection is. So in relation to the Castle Pub in Islington, where he says there was a large-scale fight with the right wing at an IRSP social.
No, I was definitely not at the first thing at the Castle Pub. Definitely not. I was.
Sorry, what do you mean by the first thing at the Castle Pub?
The
sorry, the first in this
the
list.
first incident,
Understood.
which he describes. It was not.
And in relation to being in a pub in Dover where bottles and glasses were thrown?
Yes. There was a disturbance at that point. There was basically there was a sit-down demonstration where to stop an Orange March going through a Catholic area, and Jenner was actually participating in that sit-down demonstration and was assaulted by some RUC thugs. They're the police. They used to be the police in the north of Ireland. And he's got bruises to prove it. He took pictures of his bruises.
Mr. Hedley, I don't want to stop you mid-flow, but we are going to come to that in a little bit more detail.
Okay.
So if you don't mind keeping your powder dry
It's
for a moment.
It's just here in front of me.
No, I completely appreciate that.
Yeah.
But just looking at the incident described in a pub in Dover, where bottles and glasses were thrown at suspected BNP members by a member of Red Action.
I don't. That.
And then at the Bloody Sunday March in Holloway, Mr. Jenner says afterwards AFA members chased a group of BNP members into a pub and beat them up.
I didn't witness that.
In relation to Mr. Saraki, did you ever witness Mr. Saraki taking part in violence?
No.
Moving to a new topic, please. I'd like to look at the area of Irish republicanism.
Okay.
Please may we start by considering the descriptions of your involvement in this field within Mr. Jenner's reporting.
Okay.
So I'd like to take you to a number of documents before seeking your comments, if I may.
Okay.
So the first document is MPS 0245891. So that's B5. And we've seen this one before, where it comments on violent, strong Irish accent, but an overleaf. On page 2, first paragraph, it describes you as a committed Republican and then links you to IWCA and Red Action. The next document, MPS 0246066. Again, we see the PECs linking, commenting upon your accent. And then in the first paragraph of the prose, it describes you as a dedicated Irish Republican. And the final document before the question is MPS 0246229, which is B14, sir. A final nominal pro forma, dated the 1st of May 1996. It's 0246229. Now this is not about you, it's about somebody else. If you look on your cipher list, you can see who that refers to, if you're not clear. Should be the first line on the cipher list below the text.
Okay. Yeah.
And in the penultimate line, it says this: she's currently involved with Steve Hedley, brackets mentioned, Irish Republican activist from the Colin Roach Centre. So are these reports from 1996 accurate when they describe you as a dedicated or committed Irish Republican?
I'm certainly an Irish Republican. I didn't realise that was a crime.
A similar profile, although now in a little bit more detail. If we could go to Mr. Saraki's deployment, MPS 0071194. So that's B85. and page 7. Thank you very much. In the section on late 2004, it says, no, I think the next paragraph. Steve Hedley, an activist described as his ultimate working class fighter by the well-known anti-establishment comedian activist Mark Thomas, Hedley has a pedigree second to none, having started his activism on the streets of Derry in the 1980s. He was well connected to the PIRA, Provisional Sinn Féin, and continued this association in the UK with close links to TOM, Troops Out Movement, and W2S, Wolf Tone Society. He was also an extremely active member of Red Action AFA and retained a close relationship with its hierarchy during the time 2000 to 2005 that CI, which is Craggy Island, Mr. Saraki, associated with him. Again, what do you say about the accuracy of this special branch summary?
I mean, this is just a complete waste of taxpayers' money. This is absolute invention. I mean, the idea that, first of all, I wasn't involved in any street activity in Derry. I was a father very young in my life and moved to London for a job. I wasn't involved in any way in political activities in Derry. Wasn't well connected with a PRA's Provisional Sinn Féin. Who were these connections? It's a bit light on detail, isn't it? Who were they?
At paragraph 1.1 of your statement,
Yeah?
you say this: as far as Irish republicanism is concerned, I was never a member of a Republican organisation. Since I came to England as an 18-year-old, I've been a socialist and totally reject sectarianism. I support a united Ireland, but believe that it's counterproductive to use violence to achieve this aim. I have never been convicted or even charged with anything to do with Irish republicanism. We'll look at some reports in more detail in a moment, but as a general...
Can I just ask, right? Is this the level of intelligence that people were actually putting forward and getting paid for? That they were saying that, you know, he's an Irish Republican. Well, that's a surprise coming from Derry, isn't it? He's an Irish Republican. He's got an Irish accent. What a shocker. He likes a drink. Who are these? I mean, the way he's written this is as if I have Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness round for tea. I mean, does anybody vet this stuff before? It must be... I'm just flabbergasted.
If we could return to your witness statement for a moment. When you say you consider that the use of violence is counterproductive to achieve the aim of a united Ireland, has that always been your position?
My position is that under international law, occupied people have the right to self-defence and they struggle against the occupation in any way that they deem necessary. However, at certain points in history, I think that is completely counterproductive.
And was that your view in 1996?
In
That it was counterproductive?
1996, my views were that at that point I was supporting moves towards a peace process.
For completeness, you say in that paragraph that you were never charged or convicted with anything to do with Irish republicanism. For absolute completeness, were you ever arrested in connection with it?
No.
And at paragraph 2.1, and I think we've had a flavour of this already from your answers, you say that you believe you were targeted solely because of your Irish ethnicity.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an absolute 100% case of ethnic profiling. This guy's from Derry, he's got an Irish accent, he must be in the Provost. I mean, this is just ridiculous stuff. This is, you know...
I'd like to look at some reporting which appears to link you to certain Republican groups and contacts in London.
Go on.
Please can we show MPS 40352, which is B21 in the bundle. Should be an intelligence report dated the 13th of May 1997 concerning a meeting of Republican Forum on the 10th of May 1997. If we look at the content of the report, On the first paragraph at page 1, it sets out a number of speakers from various groups, including the Irish Republican Socialist Party, Republican Sinn Féin, Brian Higgins of Republican Forum. Moving down to the third paragraph on the same page, it refers to a speaker arguing at the meeting that the Irish National Liberation Army had protected Catholic communities and that they were prepared to kill policemen in order to do so. Still on that same page, at the foot of the page, there's a record of a speaker openly praising PIRA and INLA. And then if we could go to the top of page 3, there's an account within a section of the report setting out the background to the meeting that a member of the INLA delegation suggested that a peeler, presumably meaning police officer, who had been shot dead in Belfast the night before, was killed by one of the speaker's security team.
Was what?
Was killed by one of ours. Sorry, this is the speaker. That's an account by, I think, a member
meaning
of this.
what? One of ours? And I don't understand. One of the people in the room, or?
Well, if we look at page 4, we can see that you are listed as present along
Right.
with Mark Cassidy.
Okay.
Do you remember being present at this meeting?
I can't, no.
You would agree that the report paints a picture of a meeting of speakers talking openly in celebratory terms about shooting police.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to put this in their context, the Republican Forum was not an Irish Republican Forum, okay? It was a Republican Forum of people who opposed the monarchy from different groups, from Wales, from Scotland, from Ireland. And they would have different speakers and debates on tactics, and some people were completely peaceful, some people said that the armed struggle was a way forward, other people at different positions. So, I mean, I was in a room, allegedly, with people who talked about shooting policemen. Was it me that said that?
Was the content of this meeting, at which you may have been present, and it seems that Mark Jenner was present, typical of Republican Forum meetings at that time?
I don't think so at all, no. I think that the Republican Forum meetings that I went to were very much based upon the split up of the UK state and its constituent parts, England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland, north of Ireland. And they would have different people along giving different speeches. You would have people from sort of groups like, I suppose they're called Republic now in Britain, that campaigns to get rid of the monarchy, which is a very noble aim, pardon the pun. But I think it's kind of, this is all just hyperbole. He picked something out that was said, and somehow I'm implicated it. Well, he was in the room as well. If that's what he's saying, I was in the room. He was in the room. So I don't get, how is any of this kind of damning evidence or sort of any sort of evidence of violence or, yeah, I'm an Irish Republican. I'm a proud Irish Republican.
Without giving any names, were you aware of individuals attending Republican Forum events who were involved in criminality connected to the Republican?
No, certainly not. I'll tell you who I know was involved in criminality, though. Soldier F, who went and murdered 5 people and admitted to murdering 5 people in my hometown of Derry. Paratrooper, who's been, despite the fact that he pleaded guilty, has been cleared by the British system that we're supposed to have faith in as a justice system. I can tell you that for a fact because he's admitted it. There's somebody who you may want to pursue. Get up here someday for an inquiry.
Mr. Hedley, I think we'll stay within the terms of reference for this inquiry, if we may. The next document I'd like you to look at is MPS 40536. So that's B22. should be a report of a meeting on the 9th of September 1997. Now, this is another Republican Forum meeting. It doesn't appear that you were there, but the report does mention your name in connection with...
having an Irish accent.
Well, in the context of you having been in touch with Brian Higgins with a support or membership inquiry. On the fifth paragraph, about halfway down the page, the report says this: the Forum Secretary, Brian Higgins, has received quite a few letters of support and membership inquiries, particularly since the announcement of the Sinn Féin ceasefire. One such person is Steve Hedley, one-time reluctant Sinn Féin supporter and consistent supporter of the IRA. He's become increasingly disaffected by the peace process and is now openly voicing support for the CAC and political stand that RSF is taking against Sinn Féin. Did you write to Brian Higgins, Republican Forum?
I've known Brian Higgins for years through the Building Workers Group, which Jenner was the chair of. The chair of the Building Workers Group. Why would I be writing to Brian Higgins at the Republican Forum when I knew him? Jenner knew Brian Higgins more than me. He went on his picket lines. This isn't somebody that's just appeared as somebody we don't know. We've got the right, eh?
Now, you speak to this document in your witness statement at paragraph 2.2, and you say there is no proof I was a supporter of the IRA. I was never a member of Sinn Féin or the IRA.
No.
Now, noting that you're very clear in your statement that you weren't a member of either Sinn Féin or the IRA, were you a reluctant supporter of Sinn Féin, as the report suggests?
I would describe my politics as 100% socialist. As a socialist, I do understand that the national liberation struggle and any people, unoccupied people, have got the right to carry out a national liberation struggle and struggle against an occupation by whatever means they seem necessary, and that's the right under international law. I was not a member of the Provisional IRA, and I was not a member of Sinn Féin.
And again, note this for completeness, really. Noting you say in your statement that there's no proof you supported the IRA. Were you a supporter of the IRA?
I reiterate what I said. I support people, the legitimate right of occupied people to struggle against their occupier in whatever way they seem fit.
Now, jumping forward in time a few years to April 2003, could we show, please, MPS 00-18340, B56? This is a report by Carlo Siraki, dated the 3rd of April 2003, and it states, Steve Hedley of No Platform has recently made it known to some activists who are close to him within NP that he is aware of an authentic code word that can be given to the authorities when making bomb threats. Hedley mentioned the word. This was mentioned to 2 other associates within MP. Hedley stated that he personally had never used the password, but had been made aware of it by an Irish Republican associate, NFD, some years ago. This may be of interest as it possibly confirms his previous sympathies. He does not usually speak about his Republican connections or sympathies. Now, first, in your statement at paragraph 2.5, you say this is pure invention, and you were never involved in such activities.
No. Bullshit.
To square it away, were you aware of such a code word?
No, absolutely not. Absolute
try and keep those names which are closed for reasons of privacy or other reasons
Okay. So,
off the transcript.
so this isn't being recorded as such? Is that what's...
Well, it'll be removed from the transcript.
Right.
And it will not be broadcast.
Okay, but
And nobody in the room must say anything about what you said.
outside
there.
of this room?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. But
So don't worry.
I can use the names in this room.
You must not use the particular name that was that you did use, because there is an order in respect.
Oh, sorry. I've just...
Everybody makes these mistakes. Don't worry.
So I do apologise, Alison.
A further trip to Derry and Belfast was planned the following year in August 1996. If we could bring up MPS 0246136. And if we could go to, so that's B12 in your bundle. Look at the first paragraph. It describes a further visit to Derry and Belfast and suggests that you, Mark Metcalfe, and another person were making the arrangements. Was a trip planned, as this report suggests? Do you recall anything?
Yeah, look, the Republican context, we're staying with family members, okay? There was no members of Sinn Féin, the IRA, the INLA, there was none of that involved. We were staying with family members. I don't know, he just seems desperate to kind of justify his own existence.
So I take it that do I take it that there was a further trip planned in '96?
I can't actually recall, but I can't say that there wasn't. But you know, this thing that we're going to look for Republican contacts for accommodation, that's just...
Well, I'll just look at one more point on this then. If you look at the final paragraph, there's a reference to Kevin McQuillan of the IRSP offering to arrange accommodation for the delegation with IRSP supporters, but only in exchange for Republican Sinn Féin in a dominated agenda. Does that ring any bells?
No.
I'm going to move now to blacklisting and reporting on trade union activity. Within the documents disclosed to you, there's a body of reporting from an officer known as HN60, whose cover name was Dave Evans. That reporting refers to a dispute where you were suspended following an allegation of criminal damage on a picket line at Euston.
Yep.
Do you recall that?
An allegation that was subsequently cleared of?
MPS 301183, please. That's B25. This is a report dated the 20th of July 1998, and the second paragraph refers to your suspension and the criminal damage allegation before highlighting the risk of consequential industrial action.
Yeah.
If we could move to MPS 301187, it's B26, sir. There's a further report a day later, on the 21st of July 98, which includes a comment on likelihood of industrial action if you were sacked.
Yes, as a member of the trade union, I think that's pretty straightforward. When people are sacked, they often ballot for industrial action.
And then in MPS 301239, so that's B27, we have a draft report, which is dated the 6th of August 1998. And the third paragraph refers to your suspension. It refers to unofficial strikes by RMT members taking place in support of you. And it comments upon bad feeling between RMT members and the union leadership. In your statement, you address these reports at paragraph 2.3. We don't need to go to it, but I'll read it out. Whilst on a picket line, I was suspended for allegedly breaking a wing mirror on a van, but was subsequently in the same year cleared of the allegation and no court case was brought against me. Apart from the allegation of criminal damage, which you've explained, was this just ordinary industrial relations and union matters?
Yeah, basically, a van was driven at speed at the picket line, and it turned out it wasn't me at all, it was somebody else. And we actually, somebody was taking pictures and we could produce photographic evidence that it wasn't me. So the whole thing was, basically the van clipped somebody on the way back, on the way past, and they said, well, oh, he's broke the wing mirror, you know. But they accepted it wasn't me.
And what these reports talk about are your union colleagues coming out in support of you.
Yes.
Did those unofficial strikes in support of you take place?
I think they did, yeah.
And was there any violence or public disorder?
No.
Do you believe that being associated with unofficial pickets or strikes to support your position would have any effect on your ability to obtain work?
No, I don't think so. I think it's unless we've reverted back to slavery and gone past feudalism, gone back to slavery, I think people should have the right to withdraw their labour and try to persuade other people peacefully not to cross a picket line.
Do you feel that that information recorded in police reports might affect your ability to obtain work?
Well, I think it would, yeah, because they've gone out of their way to build a completely false picture of me as some sort of violent thug. Completely contradictory, of course, because then they say I don't want violence, I want to go off and start a political project. But they've gone out of their way to stereotype me as an Irish person, and I believe that this has resulted, not just at the time, but afterwards. Currently, I'm out of work. I've been blacklisted. I know I've been blacklisted. I've been told I'm on some sort of domestic terrorism list, which I believe this amounts to in these files, these special branch files. So I think that this malicious and useless deployment of people long term, where they behaved appallingly. We had people who abused women mentoring people who abused women and looking up to people who abused women. This is the kind of system that it's produced. They could produce nothing. They hadn't brought charges against any one of us. But to this day, I cannot get a job. I cannot get a job. I've got a little bit of pension coming in. I know you're supposed to say at this point you don't look old enough, right? But I've got a little bit of pension coming in, but I can't get any jobs, and I put it down to this. I put it down to this malicious actions of these people who fooled women in their relationships.
Looking at another document to do with trade union activity, could we show please MPS 307719, so that's B40. And it's a report dated the 29th of January 2002, and this one is understood to be by Carlo Siraki. And if we go over leaf, it reports that you were arranging a trip to Greece to attend a conference for trades unionists from all over Europe. It also highlights that you, Dave Smith, Joe Batty, and Fawzia and Dave and Dan Gilman, who's referred to as Dave Gilman, I presume Dan Gilman, were going on the trip, and identifies each of you as union members. And if we look in the source comment, we can see a pejorative comment about you. It says that you are keen to show he's a class struggle organizer and thinker, and not just a thug and Stalinist tanky. And a later document, which we don't need to go to, appears to confirm that you do travel to Athens with Frank Smith and Joe Batty. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm guilty of going on holiday. Hands up. Mea culpa.
So I think you may have jumped ahead of me in my question, but what was the purpose of the trip to Greece?
Well, I think he explains it. It was a trade union conference.
And that took place?
Yeah, I think, yeah, as far as I remember.
Did you consider it was a good opportunity to network with other anti-fascists throughout Europe?
I thought it was a good opportunity to network with other trade unionists. That's why it was a trade union conference.
Did you know Carlo Siraki well by the end of January 2002?
I would have probably known him fairly well, yeah. I would have thought that. Well, obviously I didn't, but I thought he would have been in a circle of mates. He wouldn't have been particularly close, but he would have been, yeah.
How do you feel about the description of you as potentially being a thug and a Stalinist tanky?
I don't think he probably understands what that means. It's just a bit of phraseology he's picked up. I don't think he understands what a tanky is.
Could we look now at another event, MPS 2037116, B75. Now, this is a composite report of Carlos Iraki's reporting. I believe the date is 5th of October 2004. And on page 2, halfway down the page, there's a section headed Steve Hedley, Workplace Woes. And if we look at that now, Steve Hedley has just become embroiled in another workplace dispute. This has come about following his being sacked and blacklisted after he was in charge of a shift of railway maintenance workers where a piece of equipment worth £800 was stolen. Hedley's enlisted the help of his comrades at the RMT union to assist him in his fight, and there's good likelihood that it could result in industrial action by the union. Now, that same dispute is covered in another composite report, MPS 003741, and that's B76. This at the foot of the first page, an overleaf to page 2. This is another composite report believed to be dated 11th of October 2004. And that again refers to your sacking and blacklisting and to a flying picket by your supporters causing a large traffic build-up. Did this picket pose any risk of violence?
No,
Did it pose any risk of public disorder?
no,
Did anything other than a large traffic build-up transpire at
No.
that? Now, this was a dispute at the Channel Tunnel Rail Link site, and I understand from your opening submissions in Tranche 1 of this inquiry that Mr. Saraki attended a picket at that location.
He did, and he actually used his van to help the backlog of traffic. He parked his van somewhere where people couldn't get past it. So
his van obstructed the traffic.
yeah.
And that was in relation to this dispute that we've
Yeah,
seen on screen.
yeah.
And so he was one of the small band of supporters that is
Yeah.
described in your...
Yeah.
What do you, other than the van tactic, what else do you recall about him on that day supporting your picket?
Nothing really. I can't remember anything other than he just turned up and supported it. Yeah.
To your recollection, was Mr. Saraki involved with trade unions or other industrial disputes?
He was a member of the Socialist Party, so I think he would have been. He must have been. He must have been, but not to my knowledge.
Now, you've spoken today and in your statement at paragraph 5.1 of becoming aware of undercover officers in connection with blacklisting. And obviously, we've seen in the reporting today, and you've commented that you were blacklisted. Is there anything else you would like to say about the way in which you were personally affected by blacklisting?
Yeah, I was pretty badly affected, and it's kind of a little bit triggering. So, I think it led to the breakup of my marriage. I think it led to strained relationships with me and my children because I didn't have any money, or certainly contributed to all that. And it had a psychological effect because what would happen at that time, I was a very, very skilled engineer, probably 300 of us in the country, and I would be getting phone calls and starts for work come Monday morning. Monday morning would come, I would get a call ridiculously early, or when I turned up on the site, say the job's gone, job's filled. And I thought it was going mad. I honestly thought something's going wrong here. And this went on for months and months. About 6 months was the longest period, I think, I went without. And I nearly lost my house. The house nearly went. Living on credit cards. And just because these people decided because I was Irish and had an Irish accent and came from the Bogside that I was somehow involved with things that I'd never been involved with, you know. And I have to say this though, if you look at this, and it's taken a long time, right? And I saw the man's wife this morning. And much as I dislike the two individuals that spied on me and everybody else, this is a pattern of behaviour. This isn't bad eggs. This isn't bad apples. This is a pattern of behaviour. This whole SDS is an absolute disgrace. They had people who had behaved appallingly with women and in other respects, mentoring other people. So what sort of outcome did they expect? There seems to be no oversight. If somebody came to you as a manager or as a solicitor with this as evidence for a case, you would throw it out. You would go, what the hell is this? What are you talking about? So it was a complete waste of money. These people were ready to run around smoking drugs. They were off the leash. They did what they wanted. And they caused chaos, not just in our lives, the people that they spied on, but in the lives of the people that they loved and who loved them. And I think that is like massive, massive damage. And I think whoever is in charge of this special demonstration squad, special branch, or whatever they're calling themselves now, need to be held to account. And if there's politicians above that, they need to be held to account as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hedley. In relation to the involvement of the undercover officers, is it your view that information used in blacklisting came from SDS undercover officers?
100%.
Why do you say that?
It's in my blacklisting file. Three of us were picked up on a demonstration at the cenotaph, and that information appeared at a special was fed through special branch to the employers. So this turned up in the blacklisting file.
And do you think that was through the Consulting Association?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was called the Consultant Association at the time, because it did change names, but it was one of those sort of organisations that was the Consultative Association or whatever it was.
And is your case
Economic League, or I can't remember which one it was, but it was definitely that organisation. They just changed names.
And your view is that the report on the cenotaph came from an SDS officer?
Yeah.
Could I ask you, please, a few questions around the deployment of Carlos Saraki? So I'm conscious of time, but I hope we should not be too much beyond 5. Firebombing. On paragraph 2.8 of your statement, it's page 6, you say, the presence of the undercover officers to disrupt and provoke inside a group is very disappointing. Neri, so Mr. Saraki, once advocated petrol bombing a charity shop, claiming it belonged to an Italian fascist. He was told, "Don't be stupid," by me, amongst others. Now, Mr. Saraki, in his evidence, suggests that the plan was not his, but Dan Gilman's. Do we take it from your statement that you disagree?
Look, Dan nearly went off his head when I heard it. Dan just went, "What are you talking about?" I mean, we just put it down to Carlo being pissed at the time, having a drink.
What's your recollection of that incident? There's a suggestion it was made at a New Year's Eve party.
It was at a New Year's Eve party. Everybody had a fair bit to drink, and we just thought, it's not him, right? It's not him. This is not his character. It's totally out of character for him. And I think, this is just my take on it. They'd spent years and they'd got absolutely nothing because we weren't doing anything. And I think that they were then at the point is, let's try to make this sort of honey trap, this ridiculous thing. We found out the shop he was talking about wasn't owned by fascists at all, okay? And he was saying because he was Italian, he was a Walter Maria, he had links with the Red Brigades in Italy and all this kind of thing, and thought that impressed people. It really didn't. But it was like, he was suggesting that we go and petrol bomb a shop. And that this shop was in a residential area, okay? So you could have had collateral damage from this shop on the other premises, and it could have endangered people's lives. So this is a very, very, like, this is where it goes.
Now, I'm asking you to think back 20 years, and it's very difficult to recall a conversation for that time, but Do you have a recollection of what was said specifically by
Yeah,
Mr. Saraki?
yeah.
Can
said,
you tell us, please?
he said, there's a shop he knows that's run by Italian fascists, and we should go and do something about it. And we're going, well, what, like? And he said, well, we should go and firebomb it. We should go and petrol bomb it. So it was just like, it was as blatant as that. It wasn't like, you know, I'll put the idea out there and see who picks up on it. He was motivating this potential arson attack.
And did you go to the shop that evening?
No one went near the shop, right? We just, people investigated it and went, I mean, we weren't going to do anything like that anyway, but it was like people investigated and went, this is just rubbish. He's just made this entire thing up.
Mr. Batty and Mr. Gilman, in their evidence, suggest that they and Mr. Saraki returned to the charity shop a few days later. Were you part of that?
I wasn't there, no.
Before leaving that evening, when the firebomb was discussed, Mr. Batty suggests in his witness statement that this was the same night that Carlo Saraki and Donna McLean announced their engagement. Do you recall the engagement of Miss McLean and Mr. Saraki being announced that night?
I remember their engagement being announced, but I can't say if it was on the same night. It's a long time ago, right? I remember that. I'm sorry if it offends any of the female people in the room, right? But it's not a big thing to me, right? What big thing to me was somebody suggesting going and firebombing a shop. That was, to me, that was outrageous, and that was what stuck in my memory. But I do remember they got engaged.
You
but
do remember the engagement?
Don't know if it was announced that night.
Sorry, you do remember an engagement?
Yes.
House share. I'd like to show you two documents relating to interviews that Mr. Saraki had with Operation Hearn. First of all, MPS 0738088. Page 19, please. So this is B89 of your bundle. You see there's a section headed Mark Jenner. And it says, MJ said, speak to SH. He won't let you get a beating. And then it says, moved in with SH for 3 to 4 months, brackets moving around. Pausing there, that appears to be a reference to the time that Mr. Saraki lived with you.
Yeah.
But for clarity, did you ever live with Mr. Jenner? Did he ever spend time at your house?
No.
The next paragraph down says this. MJ was mentioned, Mark Jenner, I think, but never mentioned MJ having a woman. Every opportunity to be told if he had a woman. And if you could turn, please, to page 22. It says at the very top, knew Hedley intimately, told other salacious stuff. He knew MJ, he never said anything about him. If we could turn now, please, to MPS 072192. So that's B90 of the bundle. Page 1 of that document. This is a typed version of an interview between Carlo Saraki dated the 12th to the 14th of August 2013, page 8. The document says this. Steve Hedley was an activist from the East London AFA. He was a very violent man and originally from Derry. He is a deputy within the RMT. Carlo stayed with Steve Hedley for a couple of months. He was a recovering alcoholic. He and Carlo would speak about many things at length and in detail. During some of their talks, Steve Hedley mentioned knowing Mark Jenner, but never once mentioned that Mark had been having a sexual relationship with an activist, which Carlo says he considered unusual if there had been a relationship that was well known about. So following the end of his relationship with Donna McLean, Carlos Araki stayed at your home. Is that right?
Carlos Arachi pretended he was homeless, and I offered for him to stay. You know, violent drunk that I was with an Irish accent, and you know, obviously, yeah, I brought him in off the streets as I thought. And by the way, I spelled my name wrong. That's how accurate the reporting is. There's no A in Hedley. So yeah.
And how long did he stay with you?
He was supposed to be there a couple of months, but in reality, he only kind of, well, it's obvious now what he was doing, coming and going, and said he was working away. And, I mean, it was common knowledge that Jenner was having relationships. I mean, if we didn't know they were undercover cops at this point, so why would you go, oh, somebody's having a relationship with a woman that I don't know that he knew? I mean, why would you mention it?
Do you ever recall discussing Jenna having relationships with Mr. Saraki? I appreciate you say it, perhaps commonplace.
I don't think why would have. I didn't even know that he knew him. It's not somebody that I knew he was associated with at all.
So the suggestion in the document we've looked at is that Mr. Saraki recalls there being a discussion, that you mentioning Mr. Jenner at some point, but you don't have any recollection of that.
Before all this spy stuff came out, the spy cop stuff came out, and the abuse of women, what business of mine would have been if somebody had a relationship with somebody or not? It's nothing to do with me.
When he stayed with you at your address, was anyone else living there?
My daughter, yeah.
And did Mr. Saraki have contact with your daughter?
He had contact with my daughter, and he had contact with my other children who came around at weekends.
Did he pay you any rent?
No.
Would you have allowed him to stay in your home had you known he was a police officer?
Obviously not, no.
Would you have allowed him to enter your home at all?
No.
So last topic, which I hope I can do quickly. Personal details. Mr. Hedley, many of the reports which have been provided to you contain your personal contact details. Between 30th of January 96 and the 22nd of September 97, Mr. Jenner produces 5 reports containing your current home addresses and telephone numbers. Between the 10th of April 2001 and 26th of April 2004, Mr. Saraki produced a further 12 reports containing your home address, telephone number, or email address. There are also reports, for example, MPS 306659. We don't need to go to it, but so that's B33, containing details of your vehicle. What do you say about the frequency of the reporting and the seemingly continuous SDS updates about your personal information, in particular your addresses and telephone numbers and email addresses?
Well, I mean, I'd like to congratulate them. They got something right. They got my name and address, and well, actually, the name's misspelled, but they got the address correct, and they got my telephone numbers right. And I just think it's a complete and utter waste of time. I mean, what are they doing?
And if we could bring up, please, MPS 001 0061.
I can't see anything on my screen.
No, it'll come up shortly, Mr. Hedley. MPS 001 0061. So that's B52. And at page 1, at the foot of the page, here's a draft report about your personal relationship. Then in the final sentence of the page, it says this: what is likely is that more young Hedleys will arrive in this world, given his good Catholic propensity for fathering children.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the personal nature of this reporting?
It's just indicative, isn't it? We have a culture of racism, of sexism, in the police, you know, and it's obviously anti-Catholicism, and they think it's funny that Catholics have children, you know. Obviously, I'm a Catholic, I've got an Irish accent, I'm from the bog side, and I'm obviously violent and drunken, and just perpetuating this stereotype. I think it's disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. I mean, if this was a reference to me being black or Asian, or my sexuality, people would be jumping up and down, wouldn't they? But here I am, because I'm a Catholic, I'm being ridiculed and, you know.
Mr. Hedley, thank you. I have only one more question before we consider the Rule 10 process, and that is this. Is there anything else that you would like this inquiry to understand about your experience of undercover policing and the impact it's had on you?
Yeah. So is this any other things that I want to say? Okay. So I'm just going to start off by saying I haven't come here today expecting justice. I don't think there is British justice for Irish people. I think that's been shown by the fact that British soldiers can murder civilians in my hometown of Derry and Ballymurphy with the collusion of loyalist loyalist terrorists all over the north of Ireland and indeed in the south with impunity. The clearing of Soldier F, I think, put the icing on the cake. He admitted to killing 5 people, 4 of them Roman Catholics and 1 of them a Protestant. So I think I'm not here seeking any justice. I'm not that naive. I'm just here to put my story on the record. And I think what we've had here is this creeping authoritarianism in our society started there. If people are under suspicion for going on picket lines and going on demonstrations and going off to Greece on holiday and attending trade union conferences, and this is all legitimate, and you're classified as a terrorist, a domestic terrorist because of this. This is where we are today in this country. And I think we're at the point now where this creeping authoritarianism has led to people who are in the tradition of the suffragettes, direct action movements, non-violent direct action movements, being in this country now described as terrorists. And I think it's when this is, I'm not saying this lightly, I think we are becoming a more and more authoritarian state, more and more a state where the police are doing exactly what they want. And I think that the inability to hold these people in check and they actually, boasting about getting awards in some cases, boasting about getting awards for going and treating women the way they did is an absolute disgrace. It's a shame, an absolute shame on the British justice system or British injustice system. And, we have people on hunger strike at the minute, because they've been criminalised. They've been criminalised by this creeping authoritarianism. We've got people, 7 young people now, and I'm going to read out their names. Kosen Suran, Abu Ghib, Heber Muras, John Link, Tweta Hoxha, Cameron Ahmed, Louis Chiara, Mohammed Umar. These people are all on hunger strike, and they're approaching 40 days rapidly, which is the point of no return. And they're on hunger strike because no one has had the gumption to control this SDS and this creeping authoritarianism and the politicians behind it. And if those people die, the blood will be on the hands of the politicians and the police chiefs that let this happen. Because I've never seen such a ridiculous. I've represented people at all levels. I've sat in ministers with government ministers negotiating pay deals, and I've seen evidence in all sorts of cases against people. This here will be thrown out of a local disciplinary at an area level. At a local rep will get this rubbish thrown out, this uncorroborated rubbish, and they destroy people's lives with it is beyond belief. So I'm going to end up on this, and it's a if I can find it, it's a poem from a great Palestinian activist, and he says, "All your armies, all your fighters, all your tanks, and all your soldiers against the boy holding a stone, standing there all alone. In his eyes I see the sun, and in his smile I see the moon, and I only wonder, who is weak and who is strong, who is right and who is wrong, and I only wish, let the truth had a tongue."
Thank you, Mr. Hedley. So that concludes my questioning. If we could have don't understand this to be any re-examination, but if we could have a short break to consider any rule terms.
Of course. May I, before we do that, ask you one question about blacklisting, please, or to raise the topic of blacklisting. The demonstration at the Cenotaph of which you speak, which was reported on by SDS officers, was, I think, in November 1992.
Could have been. Could have been.
Yeah. If we could put up on the screen, please, MPS 0000133, and turn to the second page. This is a report by HN15 Jenner, 22nd of January 1997. And if you look over the page, your name appears about a third of the way down, and you're in as mentions, which means up to that stage, whoever was looking up the names on this to complete this report found that you, or did not find that you had any reference in the Special Branch Registry. Have you been following the evidence about that up to now?
So I'm not with you, sir. Could you just say that again?
You're aware that there was a Special Branch Registry.
Right.
So capital R, capital F, and then 3 numbers.
Right.
What the entry mentions means is that you have been mentioned in SDS reporting and possibly other reporting,
Right.
but have not yet got a registry file number.
Okay, so the file that I was referring to was a blacklisting file which is 17 pages long.
No,
17 pages.
Forgive me, I appreciate we're talking about different
Okay.
blacklisting, different files. But what I'm trying to get at is when, if at all, SDS reporting on you got into a blacklisting file kept by the Economic Lead or the Consulting Association. I'm going to ask you in a moment whether you can help me on that, but I want to show you some documents before we get there.
I understand.
This is the first one. This is one of a run of documents in which your name is mentioned and you are put in as mentions. So whoever was drafting the SDS report by HN15 didn't have a registry file number for you. If we then look, please, at the next document, which is MPS 0000266. First page, you see your name there with a registry file number, 3359619. And if you look at the date, it's March 1997.
Okay.
So the previous one we looked at was January 1997,
Right.
is now March 1997. So by the time that this report has been prepared, whoever is looking up the references has found you have got a reference number and it was created in 1996. That's what the 96 in the middle means.
Okay. So I was led to believe, and you correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, that there was a red desk where these papers would be, because the SDS is part of Special Branch, or was part of Special Branch, it's just been rebranded, and then somebody would, from another department of Special Branch, would take the information that they've got and go and meet the employers and give them that information.
You've probably heard the evidence that I have about that.
Yeah.
We, I think, know that that occurred before your registry file is created.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's impossible that
Right.
the information got over,
Okay.
but it may perhaps make it less likely than if it had been on the registry file of Special Branch.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that may well be your assertion, sir, but the sort of quality of the reports and quality of the filing is shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
I'm not making an assertion. I'm trying to get to the truth of things.
Well, okay.
And if you were able to tell me, having seen your blacklisting file, when you remember the first date on it appears.
I think the first date was around the time of me getting sacked from Euston, the allegation being made at Euston. Yeah, I think that was it.
Right. That's what
Yeah,
we've
I
already
think-
looked at
yeah,
today.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
understood. Thank you. That's given me something to think about, and I will at least be able to establish an approximate date when the blacklisting file that you've seen contains the first entry. Yeah. Thank you.
Steph, you might have 5 minutes for.
Of course, yes. We've got to go through a process now to see whether there are any further questions which Council of Inquiry will put to you.
Can I
If
go to
there
the
are.
loo in the meantime?
Of course, yes, absolutely. Take your time.
So there are no Rule 10 questions. Mr. Khan would like to address you very briefly, if I...
Yes.
It took a bit of time trying to track down a particular document. The difficulty is that that document isn't easily displayed so that it would assist the witness and you in relation to the matter that you raise on blacklisting.
Yes.
So all I wanted to say is that we will seek to obtain that material and provide it to you, so it might assist you in relation to the timing position that you were speaking to Mr. Hedley about.
That would be very helpful. I had in mind the evidence that we heard from Peter Francis about the occasion when Lord McAlpine had, according to him, lunch with his then sergeant.
Yes. We didn't want to detain you any longer, given the time and this witness. It was
Yes.
only through this witness that we were able to get that material, but will you allow us to do that in due course?
Certainly. I'd welcome you. I would welcome it if you would do that.
Thank you very much. There's no further examination on my
Thank
part.
May I say thank you to everybody who has come to give evidence, to assist me in my, as you discovered, not at all straightforward. You're quite right. No, you're quite right. And thank you for reminding me. May I thank you for attending to give oral evidence to help me in my far from straightforward task in finding out and reaching a conclusion about what happened all those years ago. You're going to help me further a bit about blacklisting, I understand, and I'd be grateful if you and those who represent you would do that. If it's necessary to come back to ask you further questions about that, may I do that in due course, either in writing or
Certainly.
to ask you to come back and speak to me?
Yeah.
Thank you. We will resume tomorrow, I think, will we not, at 10 o'clock. Yes.